Coming to you live, it's San Miguel TalkStory, a bilingual podcast presented by the San Miguel Storytellers and the San Miguel Literary Sala.
Our next storyteller, Carol Murchison, is a recovering lawyer, an award-winning storyteller, an author of the book, it's a marvelous book, This is Mexico, Tales of Culture and Other Complications, which is available in the Conference Bookstore and on Amazon. She has lived happily in San Miguel for 10 years, thanks to her husband, Senor Roberto, 2 dogs, 2 birds, and a lot of Mexican people. Carol Murchison.
Thank you. I am nervous. I am heart-stopping, palm sweaty, nervous. And I should be, because I'm about to do battle with one of the most formidable enemies of the Mexican people. Oh no, not the drug cartel or corrupt politicians. No, I'm talking about the famous, infamous Mexican bureaucracy. I am trying to fly from León, Mexico to Newark, New Jersey with Lola, the rescue dog, to take her to her forever home in Manhattan. I come face to face with the agent who is working the check-in desk for Continental Airlines. Senora, you cannot travel the dog without the formal papers. Well, I know that. Before I can even get into my purse to get the formal papers, he's gazing over my head and gesturing to the next person in line. But oh no, this is war. Lola and I stand firm. I am not heavily armed for this battle, but I have the only weapons that actually matter for this dog-flying skirmish. I start with an excess of courtesy and a vocabulary of respect. Buenos días, señor. ¿Cómo está? Qué bueno. Señor, may I have the honor of presenting the dog's papers? I take out a fat file folder from my purse, optimistically labeled Lola Travel. I take out the papers from the veterinarian, signed, and I put them down on the counter with a slight, definitive tap. I exude a whiff of authority, but not too much. Too much can kill the whole thing. He takes the papers and he begins to read them studiously. He glances up and he sees the airline-approved kennel. He says, Senora, you cannot travel the dog. The jaulita, the kennel, it is too big. Now here I have to move to another strategy that I call agreeing while disagreeing. Oh, senor, sí, I can see that it appears too big. Yes, indeed. But en realidad, senor, I believe it is the right size. But as you may be right, let's measure it. Out of my purse, I take a red leather monogrammed tape measure in centimeters and inches. Armed with that and a printout of the rules for traveling with dogs in 2 languages, we do indeed determine that the kennel is within the allowable airline rules. He attacks from another angle. Senora, you cannot travel the dog because it is too cold in Newark today. It must be above 20 degrees at every stop along the route. Now I move to the strategy called, what do you think? But before I do, I take out my paper from my file folder. It's a printout from weather.com. With the temperature in Newark, it is 31 degrees. I hand it to him. He hands it back. No, senora, it is too cold in Newark. Now I go to what do you think? Senor, what do you think is the temperature in Newark today? He looks at his computer screen. He looks at the paper. He refuses to meet my eyes. He says, "Desafortunadamente, senora, I do not know what the temperature is in Newark today. The computadora has the temperatures in centigrade. Your paper has the temperatures in Fahrenheit, and I lack the knowledge of the conversion between the two." At this point, a Mexican man standing in back of me, all too familiar with the game, steps forward to join me in battle, armed with a smartphone. He takes the centigrade, types it in, punches a button, and he holds up the conversion. It's 31 degrees in Newark today. I feel a shift of momentum. I feel that I could actually see Houston and then Newark. But not quite yet. Senora, you cannot travel the dog when the temperature is below 32 degrees without the special permission of the veterinarian. I open my file folder, formerly fat, still optimistically labeled Lola Travel, and I find one document left. It is captioned, "Permission to fly animals at a colder temperature." I hand it over. He looks at it briefly and he hands it back. Sadly, but not really, he shakes his head. "Ah, senora, I cannot accept this document." Why? Because it lacks the stamp of the veterinarian. The stamp? Si, senora. Without the stamp, how will I know whether it is a forgery or not? I am done. I have no papers in my formerly fat file folder. I have no strategies, no maneuvers, no techniques left. He has defeated me. I look over at Lola, and she looks at me. She gives me a look. She gives me the same look that she gave me when I found her out in the campo, cold, hungry, frightened. It was the look that said, "You can help me. You can take me home." Okay. I'll make one final assault. Senor, I am so sorry that I have caused you so many problems and wasted so much of your valuable time. But, senor, why don't you let the dog and me go on to Houston, where it's 50 degrees today? Why not let those crazy gringos up there figure out whether the special permission is a forgery or not? This is a technique commonly known as passing the buck. In a flash, we are gone. Lola escorted to cargo, me escorted to the flight like the paper-forging, dog-exporting criminal that I appear to be. When we arrive in Houston, I collect Lola and we go to check in again. At the check-in counter of Continental Airlines, I notice that the gate agent's name is Hernandez. So I take a chance, and I tell her in Spanish, I live in Mexico, a country that I love very much. And Lola is a rescued dog who's going to live on the Upper West Side of Manhattan on her forever home. Senora Hernandez says, "Que bueno," as she types in our continuing flight information. I get out my file folder and I say, here I have the special permission of the veterinarian for Lola to fly under colder temperatures. It's 31 degrees in Newark today. She looked up. She smiled. She said, "Don't bother. I'm sure it will be fine." And I smiled back. And I thought, yes, every country has its way, but every dog has her day. Thank you.
The San Miguel Storytellers is a non-profit organization intent on bringing back the oral tradition of storytelling to San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. If you would like to make a donation, volunteer, or get more information, visit sanmiguelstorytellers.com.